So here is the question that's been eating me for months. Should indie developers even bother with Android? I know, Android has 70% of the global market share. More users, more downloads, more opportunities, right? Well, let's see. I've been digging to Sensor Tower data, looking at successful apps, and honestly, the numbers are kind of depressing when you're looking at Android. Let me break this down. Pull up almost any app that you see on Sensor Tower and compare them to see that it's the same pattern that repeats over and over again. The iOS revenue is just higher, sometimes way too higher. I'm talking about apps that are making a lot of money on iOS, pulling in maybe 20% on Android. Apps with similar download numbers, but the split is in favor for iOS. Let's take as example MyFitnessPal. In the last month, they generated $11 million on iOS and they generated $2 million on Android. The split is 80 for iOS and 20% for Android. At first, I thought I was looking at the wrong apps. So I checked games, same thing, education apps, same thing, meditation apps, you probably guessed it. The pattern is that consistent enough to say that is a rule at this point. If you're building an app that makes money on iOS, it barely makes a fraction on Android. But before telling you the psychology of the users based on the platform, a quick word from our today's video sponsor, Boot.dev. If you have been wanting to get into backend development but don't know where to start, Boot.dev basically gives you a roadmap and turns it into something genuinely fun. Instead of watching long tutorials, you jump straight into building the kinds of projects you'd actually work on in a real backend job using Python, SQL, TypeScript, and Go. They have this AI tutor called Boots. Yeah, it's a bear wizard that helps you when you get stuck. But instead of just handing you the answer, he asks questions and nudges you in the right direction, way better for actually learning. They also have this training grounds feature where you can grind infinite coding challenges for as much practice as you need. You earn XP, level up, complete quests, and fight bosses. Honestly, makes learning way less of a drag because you can see the progress. And if you're completely stuck, there are solutions available for every challenge so you can see how the instructor wrote the code. Plus, the Boot.dev Discord community has tons of people ready to help. All the content is free to read and watch. Paid membership unlocks the interactive coding, AI help, all the game mechanics, and certifications of completion. Also, they have a 30-day refund policy if you don't like it. Check the link in the description, it gives you 20% off your first payment, and thanks a lot to Boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. Moving on to the user psychology based on the platform, there is something that will make this interesting. It's not about the numbers, it's about the users' behavior and what they are expecting from each platform. iOS users are just more willing to pay. You put up a $5 paywall to unlock premium features for your app and the iOS users will probably consider it. They will wait whether the app is worth it and a decent chunk of them will actually pull the trigger. For Android users, there is a total different story. They see the exactly same $5 paywall and they start looking for the watch ad button. And I'm not judging here because it's something cultural for this platform. Android always had more free apps, more ad-supported models, and more alternative app stores. Users expect to get things for free and they are willing to watch ads to make that happen. The problem is that the ad revenue is way too low and you need thousands of ads to make that $5 that you will make from a single subscription. Let me give you a real example from my apps. I launched Swipe Soup, a photo cleaner app on iOS, and it generated in the first month $250 and now it sits around at $80 per month. But anyways, these are still money, it's not like it's making $0 right now. And with a success in the first month, I considered building the Android app too. It took me 3 days because I already know how to build Android apps natively and it was a piece of cake. It generated around 200 downloads in the first week. It landed 3 free trials that ended up with billing errors. These are not like the subscription cancellation, they just ended up with billing error. I don't know why, but I prefer to see that they canceled the subscriptions by themselves. Now I know that is not a lot to spend 3 days on shipping an app, but imagine that I could improve the current iOS app or just work on a new project. But before writing off Android completely, I need to tell you about Max. He's an indie Flutter dev that is sharing his journey on X and he's crushing it. He shared in a post that he managed to reach 10k MRR and I left a comment asking what percentage of that comes from Android. His response, keeping the percentages a secret, but Android slightly outweighs iOS. Plot twist, right? Here is a guy that makes a lot of money from indie apps and Android is actually doing better for him. So for him, the Android revenue isn't extra work, it's a part of his default workflow, because as he develops apps using Flutter, he ships for both platforms at the same time. Not like me when I shipped the iOS app first and then I created a new native app for Android and it failed. If you are already fluent in a cross-platform framework like Flutter or React Native, I'm 100% sure that you should ship for both platforms. The incremental effort is minimal, and even if Android brings in 20 or 30% of that revenue, that's still meaningful because you don't have to double the work. Max proves this works, he's making real money, and Android is contributing significantly to his revenue. So here is where you need to make a decision based on your current situation. The first option is that you already know cross-platform. Ship on both. Obviously, you'd leave money on the table if you didn't. Even if Android is the smaller slice, you are already writing cross-platform code anyway. Option 2 is that if you are willing to learn cross-platform. If you want maximum reach for your effort, picking up Flutter or React Native makes sense. Build once, ship everywhere, and collect money from all the platforms. You're already shipping apps for iOS and you are not interested in switching. Even if you know how to build apps natively like I did on both platforms, it just doubles the work. The time you'd spend creating and maintaining a new Android app I think is not worth it because it's generating less of the revenue and is double the work. You'd better start working on a new iOS app. Look, here is the thing that nobody tells you when you're starting out. Your time is the most valuable asset. Even though I can build Android apps and ship them in 3 days, those 3 days for zero revenue stung. Imagine if I didn't already know how to build Android apps and I had to learn it and spend weeks for that. The dream of launch everywhere and maximize the revenue sounds great until you are maintaining two code base, encounter platform issues, and watching a platform paying for the bills and the other platform didn't even make $1. For me personally, I think I will ship one more iOS app and then I will shift my focus for cross-platform. I want to see if I can build an app that crashes on both platforms, and for that I'm going to use a cross-platform framework like Compose Multi-Platform because I already know how to build Android apps and this will be a piece of cake for me. And I already tried Compose Multi-Platform in a freelance gig that I took a month ago and it was really nice and easy to use. So the big question is, are Android apps profitable? The answer is that it depends. If you're building cross-platform apps from the beginning like Max, then yes, Android adds a meaningful revenue to your total and the effort to support it is reasonable. You're not building two apps, you're building one app that runs on both platforms. But if you're considering building it native, iOS should be your priority. The users pay more willingly, the revenue per user is higher, and you can actually build a business without needing millions of downloads. Android is not dead for indies, but it requires the best approach. And they also made it harder because you need 20 testers for your app to get it on the Google Play, and if I'm not wrong, if you have a business account registered on Google Play, you don't require these 20 testers. So my advice is to start with what you know. If you already know Flutter or React Native, great, ship everywhere. If you already know how to ship iOS apps, that's great. Don't let the platform fear of missing out distract you from building something people actually want to pay for. Let me know in the comments what's your experience with iOS versus Android revenue. I'm genuinely curious to see what are your results. Anyways, thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that like button. By the next video, make sure that you eat your veggies and ship fast.